Hi everyone, well good morning, how are you all? So this week we've been talking about finding the time to cross stitch, and yesterday I was meant to come in with step 3. It was just one of those days though, and I didn't want to come in when I was feeling I had a migraine, wasn't feeling great, so I didn't want to come in with that kind of energy and talk to you. But today I'm feeling so much better, so I just thought I'd hop on straight away and talk through step 3 and finding the time to cross stitch. Now, when I'm talking through all these steps, obviously this is just how I find the time, and there are so many different ways to go. And I know a lot of people might be thinking I'm going to talk about a routine, setting a cross stitch routine. I do have a few blog posts about routines, but really I don't have routines around my hobbies as such. There are some things I tend to always read before I go to bed. I guess that's a routine, but it's not at the same time every night, and it's not something I do every night either. Sometimes I don't read. But for me, I don't want a routine around something that's fun, because routines to me are not very fun to... I like the planning of the routine, but I'm not great at sticking to them as such. And I just think cross-stitch and hobbies should be spontaneous and fun, and you should just do them when you feel like it. You shouldn't do them because it's part of your routine and you feel like you have to do it. That's when we start losing motivation, not feeling great, and also not really finding the time, because there's only this one set time a day that we can do it, and that's our routine, and that's when we do it, which doesn't really leave a lot of space to do it in other times of the day. But I do have some posts on routines if you want to go and listen or read, and I also have a sort of a series that I did, it must have been last summer now, talking about cross stitch theme days. So sometimes I do this, I still do this now, I'll theme my days. There's Motivation Monday, Tricky Tuesday, Stitch Along Sunday, there's just different days, so you can go back and listen to those as well and watch those videos. That on my Instagram, so just scroll back a little bit, you'll see them titled. But what I like to do is I like to set routines up for all the boring stuff in my day. I have a routine of when I do the dishes, I have a routine of when I do the washing, I have a routine of when I do the ironing. I don't really iron that much, really. My routine of ironing is once a month. But I have routines for the things that need doing every day. Most of us have a morning routine, even if it's not something we have wrote down. I get up, I make the kids breakfast, I get them ready for school. They're the things I have routines for. And then my hobbies are just things I do when I feel like it and when I have the time. Now, sometimes you might have to put a routine in place if you have a really busy schedule and you don't have any time in your day unless you schedule it in. And if that's your vibe, go and do that, that's fine. Like I said, this is just how I do it. So what I like to do is, in step 2, we kind of had an overview look at where all our time goes. And when you start noticing where your time goes, you start noticing these gaps in your day. Maybe it's when you're commuting and you're sitting outside the kids, commuting and sitting on a train or a bus. Maybe you use public transport and you're sitting on those for half an hour. Maybe it's when you do the school run and you get there a bit early, so you're just sitting outside and waiting for the kids to come out. Maybe it's when maybe in the afternoon, this always happened to me, in the afternoon my kids get a bit grouchy, they just needed a chill, put the telly on, they would just sit and watch telly for a little bit when they were younger, or we put a film on. Maybe you'd have a little nap. There's that lull in the afternoon usually. So there's these gaps in our day, and during these gaps, this is usually when we head to our phones. We just automatically grab our phones out, which is fine. Everyone loves a good scroll through social media. But these are also the times when we could be filling up with hobbies. This is literally when I get all my hobbies done. So for example, let me think of one. It's more for me, it's when the kids are watching telly at the minute. We have film night Friday. After school, they have a bit of telly time. Now they're in the garden a bit as well, actually, but even now my kids are old enough when they're in the garden, they can just play on their own. So it's usually just when the kids are happy and playing. Sometimes I'll grab my phone out, but I try and fill it with cross stitch. That's when I cross stitch. And when I was homeschooling, or when we were all homeschooling here in the UK, when they were on their Zoom calls, I would cross stitch then as well, because that's another time when I have to be next to them. Our school, like, I don't know if it was the same everywhere, but we had to be like near them to help them out. Sometimes I do work next to them, but they usually have my computer, so I couldn't really work. So then that's when I'd fill up with cross stitch. And so that's what I just want you to try and do, like, see if there's those times in your day when you can just fill it with cross stitch, or maybe reading or crochet or whatever hobby you do. We tend to always have these gaps in our day if we really like look for them. They could be like in a variety of different ways. Maybe it's even like, maybe when you're cooking, like sometimes if I'm cooking something that like when I threw it all together and it just needs to be in the oven or on the hob, that's a time to cross stitch. I have a couch in my kitchen, I can go sit down and cross stitch. Sometimes my kids just like want me there near them, but they don't want me to play with them. That's a time I can cross stitch. So for this though, the reason this works for me, you know, another one actually I just thought of, traveling. If you're a passenger in the car, it is difficult to cross stitch in the car. I used to get so much cross stitching done in the car when I was a passenger, because we used to travel quite a lot to see family and everything. But the thing with this is, somebody asked this question, I can't remember who asked it, and I don't have my notebook near me with all the questions on, but somebody asked me, like, practically when you have those gaps in your day, how do you get all your supplies together so fast? Because she says she spends so long getting everything together that she then, it cuts into your time to cross stitch. So I have a solution for that. My solution is to stitch multiple projects at the same time. And I know not everybody likes to do this. I get it. I know you like the stitch one, finish, stitch another one, finish. But if you are busy and you are running around different places a lot, it does help to have projects kind of scattered around a little bit. So like right now, I literally like can bend down and pick one up, because this is my Zoom project bag. Because I actually do, even though we finished homeschooling, I have a lot of Zoom calls that I go to for work stuff, for business stuff, like 3 a week usually. So I literally have this next to my laptop is here next to me. And if it's a part of the conversation where I'm not going to be participating, I just need to listen, I just grab my bag off the floor. It's just literally next to my desk here on the floor. And I start cross stitching. So I have like one in my office, then I have one in the living room. So that's like if the kids are watching TV or anything, I can just grab my project out. I have one in my bedroom for before bed, or like if maybe in the morning they get in bed with us and we're just having a chill morning. I used to keep one in the car sometimes, or just in my bag. So like I'd have it in my bag to like take with me places, you know, like even it like, I'm just thinking now, like doctor's offices, dentist offices, opticians, when you're sitting and waiting, cross stitch is so good for like just getting out and stitching and then putting it away. You don't need to like get loads of supplies out. So what I like to do is, because I do tend to cross stitch of an evening, I know I'm kind of going a bit all over the place, but it kind of all comes back together. What I like to do is, if I know the next day I'm going to have like a day where I'm going to be able to fit gaps in, quick gap stitching in my day, in the evening, I don't think I have it down here. Let me see if I have one that I've already done it to. In the evening, the night before, I will, no, there's not one there. I shared this on my stories the other day, and I have it in a highlight called cross stitch tips. I think I share this as well. But what I like to do is, the night before, I know I'm going to have these, like, I'm only going to be able to grab moments throughout the day. I will stitch in half stitches. I'll follow the pattern, stitch in half stitches, or stitch the outline of like a block of colour. So then the next day, if I'm just grabbing my project quickly, I don't need to look at the pattern, I don't need to find the pattern, I don't need to find where I'm up to. I even thread my needle ready. Like my needle's threaded and ready with the colour that I was, you know, going around or like outlining. I can just grab my needle, pick my project up and start stitching straight away. So if you know like you're going on the commute in the morning or in the afternoon and you're going to be in your car waiting, get your project ready the night before and then put it in your car, or make sure it's in your bag ready to take with you. Or if you know like you're going to be traveling the next day, because this is great for traveling, making sure like you do all those half stitches or the outlines because when you're traveling, like if you're on a plane or a bus or in a passenger in a car, it's kind of hard to have your pattern on your knee or like your phone out and your project out because you don't have the space in front of you. I mean, I guess on a plane you have the table, but I know we're not traveling right now, but hopefully soon we will be again. So like it's just easier the next day then to pick it up and just quickly stitch the inside of the block of colour, or go back over all of the half stitches you've done. Now you do kind of need to know the colours you're doing, so if you're stitching a project that has like lots of different shades of the same colour, that can be quite difficult to know which half stitch matches up to which like colour that you're stitching. But this does work best for like ones where you have like complete different colours, so you know which thread colour matches which part of the pattern. And obviously this works best for projects that don't need to be like on a big floor stand, or you can carry around or like leave around your house. Oh, good morning, I don't know your name, I'm sorry, but cross stitch book nerd sounds like a lot of us. We all love books as well. So yeah, what you need to do is though with this idea is you do need to keep your projects in a bag. So much easier if you just have everything together in a bag, because then you can just grab that bag rather than trying to find everything. So like I do have multiple supplies. So like in this bag right now, I have like, so this is a Sarah Ashford Studio. You guys know I love Sarah's bags. She does like custom wording on them. You can find her on Instagram, Sarah Ashford Studio. So in this bag at the minute, I have like my project that I'm working on Zoom calls, rolled up my fabric, that's ready. Then I have like the pattern is in here printed out, because sometimes I'm on my phone on the Zoom call, so I can't look at my pattern on my phone, because I do usually follow patterns on my phone a lot. I have all my threads. Now I'm not great at organising threads, like that's not my that's not my cup of tea. And also have my scissors. Now these are just the scissors that I leave in my office anyway, for when I'm like making kits, which I don't really do anymore. But this tip to leave them on a lanyard I've shared before. I got this from someone in my community. Most amazing tip ever, because you can just pop your scissors on and then you know where they are. They don't get lost down the couch. So yeah, that is just like everything's in there ready. There is also some extra things in there from another project I was stitching before this one, but it's just in that bag ready to go. Just pop it all back in. So that's what you need to do. And then so you might need like, let's say 3. Get 3 pairs of scissors, 3 bags, and get 3 projects ready. Now obviously like you might be thinking, oh that's quite a lot of money, but there's also like you can just use bags like little cotton bags like this. If you order from Lovecrafts, let me see if I have one. No. Sometimes Lovecrafts puts your threads in an organza bag. Is that how you say that? So you can reuse that bag for your projects. I mean, you can literally use any kind of bag to keep them in. In my living room, I actually have like a sewing box that I keep my project in, not in a bag, and the sewing box just hides some wires for us nicely. So I keep like my project in the sewing box, in a bag though, still, but you don't have to put it in the bag, just keep it in the box. So I recommend having one if you're working from home right now, or like the room you spend the most time in. Leave a project in there. And then I would leave one either in like your kitchen area, maybe, or your living room, sitting room, whatever you call it. Leave one in there, or if that's the room you spend the most time in, then you only need one. Maybe in your bedroom. A bedroom's a great one, because then before bed you can stitch. You can wake up early in the morning if you do wake up early. Maybe this used to happen to me all the time when my kids would wake up at like 5 a.m. and then I'd be awake and they just come in bed and just sleep on me, but I'm sat there awake. That's a great time to stitch. Make sure you have a reading light on there. Maybe leave one in your bag to take with you, like I said, and in the car. And this is just how I fill my day with cross stitch. And you might think like, oh, that's not a lot of time. Like my kids are only playing for like 5 or 10 minutes. Like the dinner's only cooking for 20 minutes. But it really does add up. Like this is how I stitch most of the time. I do occasionally still stitch of an evening, but honestly not as much as I used to. I just don't. I'm tired, to be honest. And people might think like, it doesn't matter if you're tired, you can still cross stitch, but sometimes even like cross stitch, it does take some energy out of you. So sometimes I am just a bit tired of an evening and I don't want to cross stitch. And sometimes I just prefer reading of an evening than cross stitch as well. So for me, like, it is just in the middle of the day now. I know I am lucky and privileged enough to be at home in the day, so like I can fill up that time, and obviously cross stitch is my job, so I am stitching sometimes for work, which is like that's a bit different though to me. Like, that isn't, it's still fun and it's still my hobby, but sometimes I have like set work stitching hours which are kind of outside of excuse me, outside of like my like hobby stitching hours, if you know what I mean. Yes, make box, I can't see straight if I do it in the evening. I'm the same, like, especially that Heart of the Home stitch along we're stitching in the minute on Navy Ida, that was not happening in the evening. I mean, I do use a reading lights really help, but if my husband's watching TV in the same room, the light reflects in the TV for him and he hates it, and then it's also like in the corner of his eye, in his eye line, and he doesn't like that. So sometimes I'll just sit really close to the lamp and kind of like turn my project. But yeah, it is difficult to stitch in the evening. And isn't there just something like really like luxurious, the thought of stitching in the middle of the day? Like, that to me is so much more relaxing than stitching in an evening. I don't know why, but it just is. And obviously, like, soon here in the UK and in other countries, like, it's going to be spring and summer and we can sit outside. Like, if I know not all of you have kids, but obviously I have to talk about my experience because I have 2 kids. Like, when they're playing in the garden, unless they're in the paddling pool and I cannot stitch, but when they're playing in the garden, I can just sit in the garden and stitch as well. Like, there's so many ways we can fit it in that we don't think about because we're just automatically so used to just getting our phones out, which is fine. Like I said, sometimes I'm just on my phone instead, but if that isn't serving you and you don't want to be on your phone all the time and you want to fit more cross stitch into your day, there are these ways to fit it all in and squish it in that we just wouldn't think of. It's just kind of like, we can think, I've shared this before in a video called The Power of 10 Minutes. That's in my Instagram too, if you scroll back. You know, sometimes we think when we start a new hobby, we need like a whole set block of time every day to do it, but we really can just squeeze it in those moments. Like, it's just so much easier. I mean, I've even cross-stitched in the bath, guys, in the bath. It was pretty amazing actually. I don't get a bath very often but when I do, I usually read or cross stitch in there. Like, there's just so many ways. And I also just want to say though, like, sometimes we need to rest and do nothing. Sometimes squeezing, like trying to just squash everything into like that time can be a bit stressful. Sometimes we need to sit and be present in the moment we're in. So it's not about doing this every single time you have a gap. You're like, oh, quick, get my cross stitch project and make it stressful. For me, it's like, okay, my kids are playing happily. And like, if I've spent a lot of time with them that day and I'm like, you know what, I just feel like I need a bit of me time right now, I'm going to get my project out and do some stitching. And then other times I'm like, you know what, the kids are playing and I haven't really spent much time with them today because I've been working so much. So I would just really want to spend time with them and be present with them. Like, it's about feeling into like, how do I feel right now? Do I feel like stitching, or do I feel like being in that moment that you're in? So just be careful, like, you don't start, because it can kind of act as like almost like you're trying to like block out things because you don't want to be in that moment. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I just want to like get out of this moment and I want to just like concentrate on stitching so I don't have to be in that present moment and feel things. So just be careful, like, you don't go too far with this. I definitely used to go too far and just like get out of the moment because I didn't want to feel the things that I was feeling. So it's just about feeling into like, what do I feel like doing right now? Do I feel like being in this moment? Do I need some time to just like retreat back into myself? I'm an introvert. I need time to retreat back into myself quite a lot. I need that alone time. And sometimes alone time for me doesn't necessarily mean I have to be completely on my own. It means I just cannot be in a conversation with somebody. They can be in the room with me, but I just need to retreat back from the conversation. I just need to go into my own little world sometimes and just get some energy back and fulfill myself again before I can come back and I'm like filled up with some more energy, because I get very drained very quickly when I'm talking to people all day and the kids are talking to me all day. So yeah, it's just about feeling into like how you feel. That got a little bit deep there, guys. And just finding those times. I mean, if you want me to talk about routines, I can do, because I kind of have routines in my day. So if you want me to talk about routines tomorrow, I can. I'll also be answering some like specific questions that I got tomorrow about this, but it really is just about noticing during your day, like how much time am I really like filling up with things that aren't fulfilling me. Like, we fill our time up with things that aren't fulfilling. Does that make sense? Like, you know, for me, going on social media, sometimes I enjoy it. Like, it's lovely connecting with people, and sometimes I go on there and I'm not in the right headspace and I should not have opened the app, because I'm just not in a great mood. And really what I should have done was not pick up the phone, pick up a project, pick up a book, and just like concentrate on that instead. So I hope that helps you. I hope that just like gets your brain ticking over, trying to think about where in your day you can fit this in. Like I said, I know it's hard to speak from only one experience, because obviously like I do work from home and I only work for 5 hours a day, and cross stitch is my work. And I know people must think like, well, that means you cross stitch all day, but it really doesn't. Actual cross stitch in my day doesn't really take up the biggest chunk of my day. You know, creating products, creating designs, marketing, ads, writing, recording videos, like that is my work day. The actual cross stitching isn't too much. So yeah, like I know I'm privileged in the way I work from home and things like that, and I know a lot of you are working outside of the home, you're working long days. So for that kind of lifestyle, maybe your routine is better, where you're like, you cross stitch every day at like 7 o'clock or something. And I will say, like, when lockdown happened last year and the kids came home, I did have a cross stitch routine of cross stitching every morning, and that was lovely for that season that I was in, because I needed it so much. But now they're back in school and when just in a different season again, like I don't really need the routine, because I can just pick up cross stitch when I feel like it, when I have that time, when I have those gaps. So it's just all about like realizing where your life is at, what season you're in. Do you have the same things happening every day so you could put a routine in place, or are your days kind of a bit all over the place and a bit busy and you don't have any like structure, but you don't mind, because not having structure is not a bad thing. We have obviously, like, everyone has set things that they do every day. We just kind of get into natural rhythms, but it doesn't mean you're doing the same thing every day. You're not in the same place, the same time, things every day. So you just have to kind of know what your lifestyle is like and just kind of think about where you could fill things up with more cross stitch and fill your time blocks up with things that fulfill you, and just start thinking about it. And yeah, just 10 minutes of stitching a day is enough. I mean, and when you think, like, if you can find 3 10-minute blocks a day, that's half an hour a day of cross stitch, which is like, I don't know what that is times 7. I really don't. I have no idea. What is that, like 2.5 hours a week? I got an A in maths, guys, in GCSEs. I should know the answer. And I also want to say one more thing, actually, before I go. I have so much to say about this. But one other thing I do, and this again comes from privilege, comes from like my lifestyle. If you have a partner or someone at home that could help you do this, maybe you have like an older kid who could look after your younger ones, or maybe you just live on your own so you could set this routine up. Every Sunday morning I cross stitch. This is actually my routine, the only routine I have really at the minute around cross stitch. Every single Sunday morning I cross stitch. And usually I try and make it something that isn't for work. It could be like somebody else's pattern. So what happens is me and my husband set this up like a little contract with each other when we moved into our own home together. And Saturday morning he gets to do whatever he wants and I take over the kids. Sunday morning I get to do whatever I want and he takes over the kids. So like we'll just switch. So Saturday morning's his, Sunday morning's mine. Now it kind of gets a bit tricky when like kids football and stuff comes into it. We kind of have to shift things around a little bit, but most of the time that happens. And I get up on a Sunday morning, you've probably seen me on stories, I usually share a story, open the curtains when it's sunny. If it's not sunny, I leave them shut, and just cross stitch in bed every Sunday morning. So if you have that, if you have someone on a weekend or any day you have off that could help you like accomplish that, like I think that is lovely as well, like having that, like, because I know that time is there every week and I just love that time so much. So that's like another thing that I do. But yeah, I hope that helps. If you have any specific questions, please ask me on the replay, like below, or if you're here now and want to quickly ask me, just ask me, that's fine. If you have any questions about your specific situation, obviously I've talked to a lot of cross stitchers over the past 6 years, and I do understand like there are different life circumstances that make us cross stitch different times of the day, different ways we fit it in. And like tomorrow I will be answering some more specific scenarios that hopefully you can relate to, especially if you don't work from home or you don't have kids and you're just in a different life stage to me. That will hopefully help you. So I will be back tomorrow to answer those questions as well. But yeah, I hope that helps you for now. I love talking about this. I love helping you. Hopefully I've helped you find just more time to fit more cross stitch, more hobbies, more fun, more joy into your day. I just think this is something that's so important, and we really need to just honour ourselves and really try and find that time to fit it in, because it is so important. How can we give so much to other people if we're not filling ourselves back up? Especially if you're an introvert, guys. We need time to retreat, and cross stitch is like my little retreat. So yes, I hope that helped you. Just comment below if you have any questions or comments or anything, and I will be back tomorrow. See you soon.